Hi guys, this is Karen Sasteen with Mosaic Mentoring, and I am here to share with you a little bit about working with fiberglass mesh. I'm working on a mosaic project for, let's see if I can get all the names right. It's for Lori K. Harris Farr. I'm sure you guys have seen her on our group, and she is in the middle of doing a butterfly mural. It's called Wings of Hope. Let's see, hold on, I can put my glasses on to read this. Wings of Hope Mosaic Mural Project. And if you, everybody's kind of contributing these butterflies. And what you do is you ask for, she's got a download. This is the download. And what I did was I took one of them and I cut it out on the piece of paper right here. And this is my way. I don't tend to do things the inexpensive way. I like to use products that I really like. And this is one of my favorite little tricks that I use when using fiberglass mesh. I'll explain it in a second, but first let's talk about the fiberglass mesh. You can buy it in rolls or you can buy it in sheets. But most importantly, there's one thing that you absolutely, this is cut off of a large roll that I have. Let me kind of move up close to it. So this is the fiberglass mesh. It doesn't have any sticky. If you want fiberglass mesh with sticky, I know that Luann Weeks carries it at SKEW Biz, S-K-E-E-W, her name backwards. But I happen to have a large roll of this, so I just cut it off. And what I did was I cut a piece off the size of my butterfly. You could see that here. And then I took a piece of this, did I mention, has to be alkali resistant. You can't just go to any store and buy fiberglass mesh. This is really important to remember. A lot of mosaic suppliers do carry mosaic mesh, but you can get a roll of it. I don't happen to have the roll here. They come in different widths. I think it's about that wide. Excuse me, from one of the big box stores like Lowe's or Home Depot. But you have to really look carefully and make sure that it's the alkali resistant mesh. Regular mesh is not good for using thin set. And the reason why we use fiberglass mesh is if you want to do a project, ship it somewhere and have them install it, this is how to use it. So make sure it's the alkali resistant. All right, let's go back on to what I'm using. So this Glad Press and Seal. What this is a little piece of it, and you can see it's very lightweight, and I don't know if you could see really closely. It has, there we go. It's got a sticky to it on one side. Just enough of a sticky that what I do is, here's an example, you could put a piece of paper behind it and it also comes off easily. So even after you stick it, if you want to reposition. So I stick it on and then I put the fiberglass mesh over it. And as you can see right here, I cut it out to size and just used a little tape. And this way, and the reason why you do this is because when you're working on the mesh and you put the glue on the mesh, you don't want that glue to get on your drawing. So it adds a protective barrier between, oh gosh, listen to my babies. They're playing and fighting. So what it does is it makes sure that your paper doesn't stick to your mesh. And when it's all done and when you've glued all your tiles on and it's dry, then you can, I'm going to use this one. Actually, here we go. I'll use this because that's stuck to the paper. You take it and just peel it off your mesh. And this way, you could take this already mosaiced and glue it onto your substrate. So let's talk a little bit more about adhesives. This is really important. And the reason why I'm doing this today is because somebody had posted a picture using fiberglass mesh and they used Well Bond. And I learned a very important lesson a long time ago. I did a beautiful sun mosaic, and I did it on mesh, and I adhered it to a piece of concrete, and I used way too much weld bond. So what happened was, when I went to put the layer of thin set down, and I took my mosaic and I stuck it on the thin set, it didn't last. It actually, it came up in sheets. And the reason why is because the fiberglass mesh wasn't attached to the thin set. My weld bond was attached to the thin set. And since it was outdoors, when it got wet, the weld bond turned into, it basically dissolves, it gets white again, and my whole mosaic lifted up. Unfortunately, it didn't lift up in big pieces, but not enough to be able to fix it. So it was really kind of a bummer. So the most important thing to know when you're using fiberglass mesh is to make sure that you just use a teeny tiny bit. So let me show you what's considered a teeny tiny bit. Let's take, I'm going to use just one of these tiles. So let's say I'm taking this tile and I'm gluing it on here. I only want a very slight amount. And when I say slight, that is considered slight. So just a little tiny bit. Now, once it's glued on and it's dry, you'll find that it sticks perfectly. Weld bond is a very strong adhesive. It doesn't take much for it to stick on, but most importantly, what you're going to see is that all of this area that doesn't have glue, that's going to be adhered with the thin set. So if you're covering your whole thing in weld bond, you're losing that ability for the thin set to bond through to your tiles. So make sure when you're using fiberglass mesh that you only use a very, very, very small amount of adhesive. Now, I'm actually going to do this butterfly using thin set. I'm not going to use weld bond. And the reason why I happen to like using thin set, I know a lot of people don't. I happen to like it. I don't know, I'm just used to it. Let me wipe my glue off real quickly. I don't want it to dry on there. So what I'll do is I'll use thin set, and I've shown this in other videos, I'll briefly show it, but I use these bags that I get at Target, and they're these snack bags. You can only get them at Target. It's absolutely the perfect size to fit in this medicine container. I take this, I fold it over, stick it in here. There we go. Pull it up a little bit. There. So this is the way that I fill up my little baggies with thin set. I'll mix my thin set. I'll mix it in one of my silicone containers. I love silicone containers because you can pop the thin set out when it's dry. It doesn't stick to the container. See, my desk is a disaster today. So this is one of my small silicone containers if I'm just using a small amount. And anything that's stuck on there, I just take my Italian spatula and just do this and clean it out. Works out really well. But then I take the thin set, I put it in here, take it out, fold it up, and then I cut the little corner right there, and that gives me the ability to take my thin set here and squish it kind of like an icing bag. And with the thin set, since I know that my thin set, I'm using the Laticrete Platinum 254 thin set, I know it's exterior grade, I know it's great quality, it'll stick with the thin set that she's using, so I'm actually going to cover the tiles completely with the thin set. So when this is done and dry, it's going to be really hard because you've got a layer of thin set underneath it. So that's it. Does anybody have any questions about this? So places to get the fiberglass mesh. I know that Wits End Mosaic carries it. I know that you can get, like I said, the sticky back version at SKU. You can get the Glad Press and Seal at any grocery store. What else? Snack bags, get those at Target. Go to your drugstore, pick up a bottle to use for filling. These little silicone containers, I sell those on mosaicmentoring.com. And that's about it. So let me see, any questions? No? Good. All right, guys. Have a great day. Enjoy your Friday and enjoy your weekend.